All right. Hello, boys and girls. So you've gotten all of your language arts stuff done, and it's time for our read aloud. Let me go to our camera. All right. Let's find out where we left off. Remember, it was getting really close to the day they were going to find out who the winner was. Okay, so here we are on chapter 15. The winner. Suds, Suds. I heard a voice calling me. A far, far away voice. Suds, Suds. Suddenly the voice was shocking, like a smashed window. Suds! I was being yanked out of a warm darkness. I was sitting on the edge of my bed. My mother was yelling at me. What are you doing? Why aren't you ready for school? Your bus is coming in 5 minutes. I'm not going, I said. I crawled back under my blanket. Are you sick? I heard her say. She put her hand on my forehead. No, I said. I burrowed into the pillow. She yanked the cover off. Then get ready for school. No. No, she said it again, like she couldn't figure out what the word meant. No? Pray tell, why not? I lost. What? It's Halo Day. I lost. I'm not going in. How do you know you lost? Your teacher hasn't even announced the winner yet. I just know. Darren Tapp won. He's better than me. I'm not going in. What happened next was pretty embarrassing. My mother grabbed my clothes, including my underwear, dumped them on my head, and said, You have 60 seconds to get dressed. I never made it to the bus. My mother had to drive me. When I walked into the class, everyone looked up, a room full of eyes staring at me. Mrs. Sims smiled. Welcome, George, she said. You're just in time. She was holding the first halo. I took my seat and got the shock of my life. Judy Billings turned around and smiled at me and whispered, You're gonna win. I had a flash fantasy. I heard Mrs. Sims call my name. I saw Judy Billings put the halo on my head like a crown. Then she gave me that smile and whispered in my ear, Congratulations, Suds. And then she kissed me. But then I heard my mother's voice from the ride into the school. If you lose, be a good loser. It's easy to be a good winner. Any old slob can do that. I knew the fantasy would not come true. I knew the winner would not be me. I was right. I knew the winner would be Darren Tapp. I was wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, said Mrs. Sims in her special This is a Big Deal voice, the first halo of the year goes to Constantina Pappas. Chapter 16, Outside, Inside. I think I was a bad loser. I was talking to my mother after school. I wasn't in the tub because I wasn't stressed out. All the nervousness was gone. I felt limp as a noodle. How so? Said my mom. Didn't you congratulate Constantina? Yeah, I did, I told her. When Mrs. Sims said her name, I clapped like everybody else. And when Mrs. Sims put the halo on her head, I clapped again. Sounds to me like you did pretty good, said my mother. But then something even worse happened. What was that? In the playground, after lunch, kids were going up and saying, Way to go, Constantina, and stuff like that. I was watching the tree in our backyard. One leaf was orange and red. Fall is coming. And, said my mother, and then Constantina was coming toward me. She had a funny look on her face. Funny? How? I don't know, I said, kind of like she did something wrong. And then she took off her halo and she said, I think there was a mistake. I think this is yours. And she held out the halo to me and I took it. And I was crying. Mom pulled me close to her. Tell me. I looked at the red leaf. I took a deep breath. I couldn't help it, Mom. I shouldn't have took it. But I did. I worked so hard for it. I believed her. It was a mistake. It really was mine. I looked up. I think my mother was looking at the red leaf too. Finally, she said, and then, I don't know. I looked at Constantina's face, and for some reason, I just gave the halo back to her and walked away. I might have said, Congratulations, Constantina, but I'm not sure. She pulled my ear. You gave it back to her. Sounds to me like you are a good loser. But that's outside, Mom. Inside, I feel like a really bad loser. Maybe the baddest loser there ever was. Because because I wanted to keep it. I wanted to put it on my head, and everybody would come up to me and say, "Congratulations, Suds." Mom, I was only good on the outside. I was crying again. Now both of my mother's arms were around me. That's when we heard the doorbell ring. I opened the door. It was Mrs. Sims. Chapter 17, Surprise! I almost fell over. "Hi, Mrs. Morton," she said, a big smile on her face. "Hi, Suds." I almost fell over again. "You called me Suds?" She laughed. "Well, I'm in your territory now, so Suds it is." My mother invited her in. We sat in the living room. My mom offered her tea or coffee or juice, but she said no, thank you. The smile didn't go away. But it changed. She took a deep breath. She spoke to my mother. I felt I should stop by because now she spoke to me. I could see how the events of the day were affecting Suds. What was she talking about? "Did your son tell you that the first halo went to Constantina Pappas?" she said. "Yes, he did," said my mother, "as soon as he got home from school." Mrs. Sims reached over and gave me a knee pat, as if I did something great. "Good," she said, "and I was happy to see you join the others in congratulating Constantina. I know how badly you wanted that halo, Suds. I know how hard you tried." I didn't know what to say, and I still didn't know what she was doing in my house. Now she was looking at me like I was the only person in the world. "Suds, you are an angel. You'll get your halo soon enough." I got the feeling she could see inside me. "You were disappointed you didn't get it this morning, weren't you?" "A little," I said. "But not really surprised?" "Not really." "Why not?" I thought Darren Tapp would get it." "Ah, Darren Tapp, yes." She looked at my mother. "Another boss angel." "And the Blurts?" I said. Her eyes went wide. "The Blurts?" "The first couple of days," I said, "I kept blurting out stuff without raising my hand. I guess that kind of sunk me." Mrs. Sims and my mother both broke out laughing. I don't know what was so funny. When Mrs. Sims stopped laughing, she said, so you must have been really surprised that Constantina's Pappas got it." I nodded. "Because you didn't even think she was very interested, did you? You didn't think she was even trying." She poked my knee. "Did you?" "No," I said. "Well, guess what?" she said. "What?" "You were right. She had no interest in getting the halo. Not at all. She wasn't even trying." "What?" "You were right. She had no interest in getting the halo. Not at all. She wasn't even trying." "Really?" I said. This was getting more and more confusing. She nodded. "Really." And then a funny thing happened. In all my years of doing angel halos, it's never happened before. She stopped talking and just stared at me. After a while, it occurred to me that I was supposed to ask what happened, so I said, "What happened?" "Remember the day you put the note on my desk, telling me how you saved the runaway dog in the street?" "Yes." "Well, somebody else left a note on my desk." "I know," I said. "Darren Tapp." She stared at me, at my mother. She blinked. She shook her head. "No, not Darren Tapp. The note was from Constantina Pappas." I just stared at her. She leaned in toward me. "Would you like to know what Constantina's note said?" "Okay." "Her note told me the same thing yours did." I was more confused than ever. "Huh?" I said. "She told me she was up the street that day and she saw the whole thing. She saw how you ran into the street and stopped the little dog from being hit by the car. She said it was such a wonderful thing you did that she thought I ought to know. She wanted me to know that you were an angel even after school." "Oh, oh, oh," I heard my mother say. I looked at her. Her eyes were glittery. "And that's why I gave the first halo to Constantina Pappas," said Mrs. Sims, because yes, she was trying to get the halo, not for herself, but," she smiled, "for somebody else." My mom gave a little whistle. She was fanning her face with her hand. Mrs. Sims stood up. "Well, gotta go. Speaking of dogs, it's way past Mr. Motto's dinner time." At the door, Mrs. Sims turned and gave my mother a hug. Then she hugged me. The door was shut when suddenly I thought of something. I pulled open the door. She was almost to the sidewalk. I called, "Mrs. Sims, my mom says you have spies. Joey Peterson says no." "Who's right?" Behind me, my mother was laughing so hard I thought she might get sick. So was Mrs. Sims. She was wobbling. She hardly made it to her car. I never got an answer. All right. So we're at the end of our book already. Halos to my 3 manuscript angels. My editor, Arthur Levine, my copy editor, Star Bear, and my wife, Eileen. And then the next book, it says, Follow Suds to 4th grade in 4th grade Rats. So here's a little chapter from 4th grade Rats. Chapter 1, Rats Don't. 1st grade babies, 2nd grade cats, 3rd grade angels, 4th grade rats. It was the first recess of the first day of school. A mob of 3rd graders had me and Joey Peterson backed up against the monkey bars. They were giving us the old chant. When they came to the word rats, they screamed it in our faces. Then they ran off laughing. I wish I was still in the 3rd grade, I said. Why? Said Joey. So I could still be an angel? Not me. He climbed onto the first bar. I waited 3 years to be a rat. He climbed to the next bar. And now I am a rat. He climbed to the top bar. He shouted over the schoolyard, and proud of it. I started to climb. My sneaker slipped on a bar, and I went down instead of up. The first thing I landed on was my hand. My thumb got bent back, way back. Pain. I howled as loud as I could. It still hurt. I kicked the ground. The monkey bars, the nearest tree. My thumb still hurt, and so did my foot. Only one thing left to do, I cried. Excuse me, let me read it again. Only one thing left to do, I cried. Joey's voice came down from the high monkey bars. Rats don't cry. The bell rang to end recess. I jogged, sniffling, to the door. When I got there, Judy Billings was behind me. Like a miracle, the pain in my thumb disappeared. For me, there was no such thing as pain when Judy Billings was around. I loved her. I was sure that any day she would start to love me back. In the meantime, she mostly ignored me. But I kept trying. Judy was in the other 4th grade class, so I didn't see too much of her. When I did, I figured I had to make the most of it. That's why I held the door open for her. She went through. As usual, she ignored me. I didn't care. For 1 second, she was inches away. Heaven was a trainload of those seconds. A little while later, during silent reading, a spider crawled onto Becky Hibble's book. Becky screamed. I would scream too. And flipped her book into the air. The book landed on the floor. The spider landed in my lap. Oh, I'd have a heart attack. Next thing I know, I'm on my desk, tap dancing and yelling, Get him off me! Get him off me! On the way to lunch, Joey's whisper came again. Rats don't get scared of spiders. We sat together in the lunchroom just like last year, and we both brought our lunches from home just like last year. We sat at our usual table. I opened my lunchbox. I was checking out my stuff when I heard Joey snickering. I looked up. He was wagging his head. His face was smirky. I looked around the lunchroom. What's so funny? That, he said. He was pointing at my lunchbox. What's wrong with it? I said. Ain't that the same one you had last year? Yeah, so what? He snickered again. Look at it. I looked at it. So, what do you see? I see a lunchbox. What do you see? A Martian? He flipped the cover down. Look at it. What's on it? All over it. I looked again. Elephants? He broke out laughing. He pounded the table. His face was red. I had never known I could make him so happy. He tried to talk a couple times. What? He kept cracking up. Finally, he slapped his hand over his eyes and got it out. What are they doing? The elephants? Yeah. They're flying. This time, I thought lunch would be over before he stopped laughing. Other kids were looking over. Gerald Willis, a 6th grader and the school bully, threw a French fry at Joey, but that didn't stop him. I unwrapped my sandwich. I didn't have all day. At long last, he took a deep breath. He said, Right? Flying elephants, big flapping ears, doing yo-yos with their trunks? Some of them, I corrected him. Other ones have fishing poles. His cheeks bulged with laugh balls, but he swallowed them. Morton, he made himself serious. Don't you get it? Get what? Flying elephants on your lunchbox, man? That's little kitty stuff. He picked up his paper bag. He wagged it in my face. This is what a rat brings his lunch in. I took a bite of my sandwich. What do I care? That's just it, man. You ought to care. He opened his bag. If you don't care, who will? Your mom probably got you that box, right? Yeah, I guess. Right, moms. They just want to keep you a baby all your life. Suds, I'm telling you, you've got to put a stop to it now. If you leave it up to your mom, you'll be going off to college with a flying elephant lunchbox. I looked at my lunchbox. I'd had it since first grade, when I was a baby and glad of it. Most of the other kids broke their lunchboxes or lost them, so they got new ones every year. My lunchbox just kept rolling on. The elephants were fading, and some of them were even starting to look like hippos. But I loved my lunchbox. It was like a brother to me. Now that I thought about it, I wasn't even sure I could eat lunch at school without it. And as for my lunchbox going off to college with me someday, well, to tell you the truth, I didn't see anything so bad about that. I looked at Joey. He was wagging his head and smirking again. Uh-oh, I thought. It's not just the lunchbox. So if you would like to read that when we get back to school, you can check out our 4th grade rats. Jerry Spinelli is the author of several novels, including 3rd Grade Angels, The Library Card, and Maniac McGee, another great one too, which won the Newbery Medal. He lives in Wayne, Pennsylvania with his wife and fellow author Eileen Spinelli. He also is an amazing author. All right, guys, that was a great book. So tomorrow we are going to start our chapter book, Charlotte's Web, so that we can get, so that we can get ready for our book celebration. It'll look a little different this year, just because we've been doing distance learning, but we're going to be doing some activities. But we'll give you more information about that later. But I'll start the book tomorrow. So I didn't mail the book to you. I know some of you had said to me at Meet the Teacher that you already have the book Charlotte's Web. And so rather than worrying about you trying to get it, I'm just going to read it aloud to you, and you need to make sure you follow along, because we will be writing some things about it. We'll be doing some activities for it. If you have a book at home, a copy of Charlotte's Web, and you would like to read along with me when I read, that would be wonderful too. But you certainly don't have to have it, but you will need to listen. But we'll start that book tomorrow. And so that's all we're going to do for our read aloud. And I will see you over in our math lesson. All right. Thanks, guys.